evening all. So welcome everyone to episode 25 Shark Attack Case Files. So what we're going to do today, we're going to go to Australia, but we're going to look at an attack or a set of attacks which was similar to what we looked at in episode 17. So in episode 17 we looked at a shipwreck or ship disaster which happened off Brisbane, and we're going to do another one in Queensland. This is just going to be Sharks Are Like Buses, episode 2 or part 2. And this attack, took place just off Yeppoon, just north of this island, North Keppel Island. Yeah, so this is Queensland, Australia. Yeah, and episode 17, if you haven't seen that one, this is going to be a similar story to that. So yeah, but in terms of Queensland has had 81 documented fatalities over the years, and we know Australia is the most prevalent in particularly great white shark attack statistics with 455, and obviously that one recently off Sydney 2022. So jump into this, just running over the information. So yeah, just off Yeppoon, Queensland, Australia. So this attack took place, this incident took place 1988, November 8th, and it involved 62-year-old man, Cedric, and his two sons, James and Bruce. So his oldest son was 33, and his youngest was 17. Yeah, Cookham. Uh, that's the family name. Yeah, and this was a shipwreck incident in bad weather. Species, they think it was, they're not sure, but they think it involved large tiger sharks or possibly great whites, but you are sort of up in more tropical waters here, so more than likely this was tiger sharks, but we'll cover that at the end. And their boat actually sank 1700 hours, so 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It was a full moon phase, but this was deep water, open water, deep water. Water temperature there is pretty warm, 26 degrees, 79 Fahrenheit. Yeah, and there was 2 fatalities and one lone survivor. And it was a fishing trip which resulted in a sea wreck. So let's dive into the narrative. Yeah, so Cedric and his two sons, James and Bruce, they were on this fishing trip, typical sort of Sunday afternoon, bit of family bonding, a few laughs, spot of fishing. Something they'd done many times. At some point during the trip, the trio actually ran into some extremely poor weather with increasing rough seas as the day progressed. And by late afternoon, that it saw the situation had got too far, and their boat started taking on water just with the prevailing harsh seas north of Keppel Island. And at roughly 5 o'clock, shortly before that, the Christina 5, the boat they were in, sank. And just in the nick of time, Frederick, the father, managed to send out a mayday on the radio, and the three men, so the dad and the two sons, donned their life jacket and they scrambled into this 4 meter dinghy. So this dinghy was clearly wasn't designed for long-term survival. It's obviously lacked food, water, didn't have any oars, so they couldn't maneuver in it. But the three men were confident that they'd be rescued quickly, just because the mayday that Cedric put out had actually been acknowledged by the authorities. So they were pretty confident they were going to be rescued. But these large waves just kept overwhelming the dinghy, and they just kept pushing them further north. So they actually took it in turns. One of them laid in the dinghy, which was constantly taking on water, and the other two actually stayed in the water and held onto the side, and they sort of rotated and took it in turns. So one of them got a rest, and yeah, the sea just pushed them northwards constantly as they waited patiently to be rescued. So it was just after nightfall on the Monday, so more than 24 hours in the water that matters, took a turn for the worse, and suddenly Cedric was it was his turn in the water, and he suddenly shouted, "Yeah, shark's got me!" So his sons pulled him back onto the dinghy. So they all tried to get back in the dinghy, and by the time they managed to pull their father onto the dinghy, he'd actually died very quickly of his injuries, just severe shark bites, just bled out very quickly. and even to draw the sharks away from the dinghy, the two sons were left with no option but to just return their father's body to the sea, back to the sharks, because there was just too many sharks around the dinghy with all the blood. Early Tuesday morning, in a moment akin to Captain Oates, uh, Bruce let go of the dinghy, and he just drifted straight into the path of these two sharks and was quickly bitten. And then obviously James tried in vain to save his younger brother's life, but it was to no avail. And yeah, Bruce was devoured by these two large circling sharks. So James was left alone in the dinghy as these sharks continually were ramming, bumping the dinghy, this small dinghy he was in, attempting to tip it over. Then at 16:20 hours, so just 20 past 4 in the afternoon, the dinghy was actually spotted by the National Safety Council helicopter. And the pilot actually said when he came in, he could see these two large sharks. He said they were like twice the size of the dinghy, and they were like pounding it and trying to knock James out of it. And then James was airlifted to safety as these two sharks sort of tore apart the dinghy from underneath him. So he's just very lucky, just got away in the nick of time. And the dinghy had actually drifted 150 kilometers north by the time that this final rescue happened, and this was sort of a long way from where Cedric had first issued the mayday and received the answer from the authorities. So that's why the rescue took all that time, because they were obviously searching for a very small dinghy in a obviously in a large area of ocean. Um, yeah, and although the press sort of reported it was 6 meter bronze whalers, I mean the bronze whalers only get to about 4 meters, and obviously the pilot mentioned that these sharks were twice the size of the dinghy, but obviously that they're not going to be 8 meter sharks. But it's believed that they were two large tiger sharks, but possibly they could have been two large great whites. Yeah, but I thought I'd do this episode because somebody in the comments mentioned when I done that episode 17 on that similar shipwreck scenario where there was two people died and one lone survivor. This is an identical incident which happened obviously north, same Queensland area, but this is north of Brisbane, obviously. But yeah, just amazing. This stuff does happen again. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that one. Laters.